Hello from the Zero Project in Vienna. I am Kamil GOUNGOR. I work for the European Network on Independent Living, and today I have to do the first for me, even though I have been again in Zero Project, fireside chat. And I am pretty lucky because next to me is Lisa WADORS VERNE. I hope I didn't kill your name.
You did great.
Okay. And we'll talk about EdTech.
Yes.
So maybe you can already tell us what is EdTech?
Sure. Before I launch into what is EdTech, though, just for the people who are listening, as you said, my name is Lisa Waters Verne, and I do represent an organization called Benetech. Benetech is an educational technology company,
Okay.
international educational technology company. And when we talk about EdTech, we are really talking about technology that helps facilitate education.
Okay.
And so for people with disabilities, this is critical and this is important because without assistance with educational technology, they may not have access to the materials that they need to access even basic information, let alone more advanced information that will help them succeed in life.
Yeah, I remember, speaking in an event on inclusive education in the past, and we were discussing this aspect and saying that, yeah, you can have fully accessible schools, everything, accessibility elevators, even personal assistance, everything. But if you cannot make the education process itself accessible, the material and everything, the children will not benefit from the education.
Right.
So this is what you do, right?
This is what we're doing. So, there's a lot of talk about inclusion. My background's in inclusion, and we looked at the field. We looked at to see what was around, and no one was really talking about educational technology for inclusion, right? We have people who are talking about inclusion. We have people talking about technology, but when we put them together, it really is an opportunity for us to explore ways to open up access. And as you mentioned, inclusion can happen with one person, but it only goes so far, right? You need to have all the different components of that inclusivity to make sure that not only that the materials are available, but that people believe that this is the right thing to do. And educational technology opens up doors for people, as I said before, to access information that they may have been previously barred from. So you can imagine someone with a visual impairment who struggles to read a traditional printed book. It's not, they're not going to get any information out of that book if they cannot understand the text that's on the page. But what if that book read to them? What if someone could actually get the information out of that? And so that's just one example of educational technology. We see EdTech as a really valuable component of education for many different people with different abilities, and even people who do not have diagnosed disabilities. Being able to give them more of a universal way to experience their information helps them take in information and contribute information back in a more meaningful way that represents what they actually do know.
I like what you said that even for people who don't have really disabilities, it might be beneficial. And we see it when we talk about inclusion and about accessibility. We know that when you, for example, when you make a building with stairs, disabled people are excluded. If you make a building with a ramp, everyone can enter, both disabled people and non-disabled people. And if you are a mother with a child, for example. So I mean, it's not an education example, but it's the same logic that when you are inclusive and accessible, everyone can benefit from them.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely. And so that's what this group comes together to do. This is a organization or a group of people from a variety of organizations.
And different stakeholders,
And
right?
different stakeholders,
Service
absolutely.
providers,
Service providers, in some cases funders,
disabled
government
people, I
agencies,
guess.
people with disabilities, a variety of people, because we all bring a unique perspective to the conversation. And it's a very large topic, right? As you can imagine, inclusive educational technology can span many, many different topics. And so the group gathered about a year ago. We first gathered about a year ago to come together to start thinking through what are the things that can be changed in the short term and the long term. And through a series of in-person, we met in person in Washington, D.C., also in Nairobi. So there are a series of these in-person meetings as well as virtual meetings on a quarterly basis. We are able to bring together people who may not get together otherwise and may not have that opportunity to collaborate and talk together otherwise. And so the three areas that we are starting to do our work in and starting to think through how do we make a difference? How do we actually impact educational technology, inclusive educational technology, is around training. And implementation, right? So we need to be able to, as you mentioned, you can have all the things in place, but if people don't know how to use them, it's not going to be
You-
used.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We also are very data based, right? So what evidence is available? What evidence can we show that different products, different things work and
Why you
help
do
people?
why you do what you do? Yeah.
Why we do what we do, right? And then, there's new technology that emerges daily. So how are we
AI
evaluating?
now.
AI is really interesting, right? But how do we harness these technologies so that people know how to use them? Oftentimes teachers are presented with technology and may not know what to do with it or who it would benefit. And so by looking at these three different areas just to start, we think that we can make some really global change around inclusive educational technology.
Yeah. So here I also wanted to ask you, based on what you said, what are the challenges to do this thing work? Because you said, for example, I see it as a challenge that there are new technologies coming every day. AI now is a new thing, so you need a new training, a new stuff again. So how do you adapt to that? What are the challenges you see?
Well, I think one of the major challenges is how people define inclusivity, right? Because it's definitely defined in different ways by different people. And I think as a group, we've come together to share some common vocabulary around what we are doing. We want to set criteria so that when these new technologies come out, we can evaluate and determine, are they beneficial or are they just shiny and fun? And for whom? Because some technologies may work better for some people in how they learn, and some may work better for others. Could we have a variety of technologies come together so that we are able to provide a toolkit in the classroom where a teacher has choices of how they would work with their children to make sure we're meeting the needs of every individual? And I think that that's really one of the most important things about inclusivity, right? Inclusive means all, but we are talking about the individual needs as well. So how do those individual needs fit into the big picture?
Yeah, it's
for all?
it's person-centered approach.
Yep.
And you mentioned at some point now, you mentioned the USA, Washington D.C. You mentioned Nairobi, Kenya. So you work internationally, and especially in specific regions, right?
We do. So this particular, and we actually had a working group yesterday here in Vienna. So we've been able to be on multiple continents with our in-person meetings. Inclusive educational technology is important for all students with disabilities, for sure. The areas that we chose to focus on for this are in low and middle income developing countries, areas where they may be low resourced. And that actually provides another challenge, right? There's connectivity issues. So we have to really think about the region that we're working in, working with the culture and working with the available resources to make sure we're making right recommendations or understanding really the needs of that particular community. But it is very much a global effort.
Yeah, and I think it's also what you mentioned before, that we work, in different parts of the world, and you said about cultural differences also and how we understand inclusivity and stuff. So I guess this is also one of the challenges that, I mean, I don't know how welcoming maybe some communities are to get something that you may bring from a totally different environment and perspective, right? So you need first to get them know you and to trust you, and there's a whole process here.
I also think it's important, and that goes to the point of we need to make sure we have representation from all areas, right? It's not one group of people coming in and saying we know better than others, right? And that's part of why we're here and part of why we're talking today is we really want to expand this group. We want to make sure we have multiple voices represented. We have participants from Asia and Africa and Europe, the United States, North America, South America, Australia, but we need more. We need more voices. We need more of you to join us as part of these conversations so that it is not very focused and narrow in our thinking, that we are really inclusive of the needs of people around the world.
Yeah, I see. No, I mean, it makes me think, about similar projects we hear sometimes, and they don't really continue. So how do you ensure that, I mean, not how you ensure, what are you doing, to make it sustainable and to continue, because it's really important to make such, initiatives but not to finish in 1 year. So first of all, how long is your initiative already?
So
and what is the future of the initiative?
Less than a year. We've been together for less than a year.
How you see the future?
We hope to expand this and have it sustained for many, many, many years, right? This is not something that we feel will go away. Technology only has more of a presence than less. And so, I anticipate that it'll have a very long run. Right now, there are really dedicated people who have been part of putting together the agendas and having presenters come and join us for the conversations, as well as leading subgroups. So it's not all being run by the work that we do at Benetech. It is and it needs to be a global initiative. And so you asked about sustainability. Of course, there's always the funding piece.
Yeah, of course.
Right? We are always looking for someone who would be willing to fund a lot of this work and to help us grow this work. But we also know that, it takes a lot of volunteers. It takes a lot of people who really believe in the cause to continue this work as well.
So how big is this a lot? How big you are?
We're under 100 still.
Oh, that's not small.
No,
For
we're
one
not
year,
small.
that's
Yeah,
that's impressive.
I want to say it's closer to 50 than 100, but because we've been able to have a mixture of in-person and online, we've been able to pull people in from different regions and time zones and really try to make it as inclusive as possible. And we hope, as I mentioned, to see it grow even more, and that we have more voices who can contribute to the conversation. I do think it's important, though, it's not all about a conversation. There's action that needs to come out of it.
Action, always action.
Yes, and all of the subgroups have taken task and responsibility to create actionable outcomes. That, I think, will be the other piece that will show sustainability in the, as we show that we're able to accomplish and move forward and to, come together, because talk alone is not going to get us to make change.
Yeah, and since you said about change, and we are closing to our discussion, I wanted to ask you, what change have you seen already?
Well, I think one of the biggest changes is, and this is only something I would see continue to grow, I think we're seeing a shift of people who have thought, I need to do this on my own, to more of a collaborative relationship. And I do believe that that is what is needed and best for this type of work, that one organization cannot do this work alone. It really is a variety of people. It's a variety of passions. It's a variety of expertise and a variety of experiences that will work. And as we work together, we can do much more together than we can do alone.
I agree with that, and I like the approach that you have, also the multi-stakeholder aspect, that it's not only one category of people or one specialization of people, but all together, bring their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So before we finish, I have two last questions. The first one is, we have 3 minutes exactly. So my two last question is, first, if you could ask something to people, to support, what would you need from, now we'll ask people, what would you need to, to continue this initiative from others, so from us? How could we help, let's say?
Sure. I mean, I think there's not one answer to that question.
Yeah.
I think there is, as I mentioned before, it does take the individuals and the organizations to support this type of work. It takes people who believe in this work, and also the organizations to support their participation in this kind of work. It also takes funding. It also takes, to be able to expand it and to be able to elaborate on some of the work we're doing. But I think a little bit more of everything. Is that good?
It's perfect. Yeah, thank you. And the last question is the typical one that I might forgot something. So is there anything else you would like to mention about the initiative that I didn't ask you?
No, I think this was a really great opportunity to just talk about the work that we're starting, because it is so new. I hope to come back in future years to talk about how it's grown.
I'm looking forward to meet you next year and ask you.
Me too, yes. And I'm hesitant to do this, but I will do it anyway. If you are interested in joining this group, please do not hesitate to reach out. My email address is Lisa W, Lisaw at benetech.org. And we're happy to have you join our group. We're happy to have you be part of the conversation and help us shape where this is going, right? This is not something that is fully formed, and that we hope that by having other people participate, other people part of this conversation, it becomes more valuable and more scalable.
Yes, and I agree with that, and I will close the discussion with that. So thank you everyone who participated in this discussion and who listened to us. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I really encourage you to follow the work of Benetech and of EdTech Working Group. And yes, stay tuned, because more fireside chat are coming tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
No, I hope it was okay.
Yeah. So, and,
Thank you you do interesting stuff.
thank you. I appreciate it. But if there's more that you want to talk about, please don't hesitate to reach out.
And I really said the name properly. I didn't kill it.
You did. No.